Hello everyone, Mr. A here. Hope everyone's doing great so far. So today's video is going to be relatively short. We will be going over creating a title screen, right? Because a lot of games that you see nowadays have a pretty awesome title screen to grab your attention, right? So what we're going to be doing is creating a very simple title screen, and at the end I'm going to show you an example of what a full title screen would look like, right? So first things first is I am going to be selecting my own sprite that I downloaded from Google. You can download any sprite you want from Google and upload it to Scratch later. So what I had did is already downloaded my image from Google, and I'm gonna upload my sprite, right? And I'm gonna go ahead and find my image, go ahead and hit open, and voila. This is the image I found on Google. I downloaded it to my files and then just uploaded it on Scratch. But at the moment my sprite's a little big, so let's go ahead and change that. Let's go ahead and change that to a size of 30. Let's try that. Awesome. Let's make it a little bigger. Let's go with 40. So in title screens, you know how you have text that are scrolling in and pixelate and have all that fancy pizzazz. So we're going to be doing our own pretty much fancy pizzazz intro screens as well. So now that I have my sprite uploaded, first things first is we go ahead and grab our events block, right? So what I'm going to be doing first is having my sprite start at a certain position anytime I start my code, right? So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and grab the go to block. So you see here it says go to an X position and a Y position. These coordinates are related to these coordinates down here. So if I go ahead and move my sprite, so now it's at 130 on the X and 110 on the Y axis. So the go to block pretty much sets our sprite to go to this position anytime we start our code, right? So let's go ahead and try that out. So see how it moved to that position. So I'm gonna go ahead and move one more time just so I can show you. And voila, it goes straight to that position. So what I want to do is have my sprite start outside of my stage so it can scroll in, right? So what I'm going to be doing is just changing my Y value to 0 and my X value, since I want it outside of my screen on the left side, I'm going to select a very large negative number. So I'm going to go with minus 200. So now when I start my program, see how it's already going to the left. So I wanted it completely outside of my screen. So let me try minus 400 to see how that looks. And it's almost out. So let's go with minus 500. Oh, so I guess this is the farthest it will go. In order to fix that, you can just go ahead and change the size, but that's okay. So now that we have our sprite outside of our stage and we want it to glide into the middle of the screen, what I'm going to be doing is grabbing that glide to a certain position. So I'm going to go ahead and glide back to the middle of the stage. So I'm going to go ahead and glide to 0, 0 for about 2 seconds. So now I want to go ahead and start my code. See how our sprite now glides to the middle of the screen? Nice, nice, nice. So now we're making some progress. So let's go ahead and even add more pizzazz to it. Let's go ahead and add some effects to it, right? So if I want to change the effects on it, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the looks blocks. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and let's go ahead and set my effect to 0 because when I start the program, I don't want any effects going on, right? So let's go with the pixel. You can go ahead and play with any of these. These are all a lot of fun to play with. I'm going to go ahead and choose pixelate. So I'm going to set my pixel effect to 0, and I'm going to introduce a new block called the repeat block. So this repeat block pretty much runs the coding here for the number amount of times you told it to. So in this case, I want to change my pixelate effect by 25 for about 30 times. So here is pretty much saying is that our sprite is going to go to this position outside of our stage, then glide into the middle of our stage, then it's going to set our effects, and then it will do the effects, right? So let's go ahead and see how that looks like. Awesome. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to hide my sprite and then switch backdrops, right? Because that's the intro screen. So now I want to switch into that main stage, right? So let's go ahead and set that up. So if we continue going in our looks block, we're going to find this hide. So after we complete our effects, we're going to go ahead and hide it. But if we're going to hide it, then it's going to hide the sprite forever. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the show block and put it all the way in the beginnings. So anytime I restart my code, I will show that block. It will do everything I told it to and then hide, right? So let's see how that works. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now that we got that working for us, so now what I'm going to go ahead and do is set up the main stage, right? So if I go to backdrops, sorry, stage, and go to backdrops, I'm going to go ahead and select a backdrop from scratch. And let's go ahead and have my basketball court be my main stage. All right. So let's go back to our sprite. And now, anytime I start my game, we have to have our backdrop start at the appropriate backdrop, right? So what does that mean? So when I start my game, I want to switch my backdrop and I change it to the empty screen, which is backdrop 1, right? And it will complete this code and then hide, right? And then once my backdrop switches into my main stage, which is the basketball court, right? Then I will have a new sprite appear. So let's go ahead and set that up. So let's go ahead and have Ben appear once that new backdrop is switched. Right? So let's go ahead and get rid of this. But we have one little issue here. So let's go ahead and try that again. See how it starts off pixelated? We can quickly fix that by just changing the order of our coding blocks. So we can go ahead and switch our set pixelate effect to 0 and go ahead and set that as the very first block. So now when I start my code, now it's a lot more clear and then it pixelates, right? So now we finish our title screen. So once the title screen is done, like the next thing we usually do is go into our main screen or our game screen, right? So that's where we're going to be setting up. It's just switching backdrops. So switching from the intro screen into the main screen, or aka our game screen, right? So let's go ahead and select a backdrop. So let's go on stage. I'm going to choose a backdrop, and in this case, I'm going to go with a basketball backdrop, right? So now what I want to do is I want to have my intro screen be on an empty blank backdrop. So if we go to our stage, we already have that set up. We have our empty backdrop and our main stage, right? So let's go ahead and set it up to where I start my program. I start in that empty backdrop. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that switch backdrop 2, right? And I'm going to set it after my set pixelate. And I'm going to set my backdrop to backdrop 1, which is that empty backdrop, right? So now when I go ahead and run this code, it starts in that empty backdrop. But now I want to switch to the basketball backdrop, and then once it switches to my basketball backdrop, it's gonna hide my sprite, right? So let's get that set up. So if we go to our events and we go when backdrop switches, right? Once my backdrop switches to my main screen, which is my basketball court, I want it to hide, right? So let's set that up. So now I have it to where when my backdrop switches to my main screen, it's gonna hide. But we never told it to switch to that second backdrop, right? To that main backdrop. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're gonna, once our code finishes, we're gonna switch to our main screen, right? So let's go ahead and run that. Awesome. So now we have our sprite starting off on our empty screen, pixelating, and then it goes into our main screen. So that's pretty much how you do a title screen, which is pretty awesome. Here's a quick example of what another title screen may look like. So when I go ahead and press space, you can even add sounds and all that beautiful stuff, which is pretty awesome. So that concludes this video. So as a challenge for you all, I want you to reply with either a screenshot or a video of your title screen moving in and then disappearing into your main backdrop. So I will see y'all on the next video.